Computer.
Ich bin C3PO, Roboter-Mensch-Kontakte. Und hier mein Partner R2D2. Wait, did he just say R2D2? Was that a mistake? Let's check another scene. R2 ist getroffen! Definitely not a mistake. In every scene with R2D2 in this entire trilogy, he's referred to in the German version as R2D2. But I thought the German word for two was zwei. So what gives? Let's go back to the 1950s or so and the formation of NATO. There was a need for a way to communicate very clearly over radio or telephone, especially in high noise environments, such as a soldier trying to radio in artillery coordinates from an active battlefield. If the coordinates contained something like B, C, C, D, G, E, it would be very, very easy for the person on the other end to mishear that because those letters all sound very similar. So, NATO came up with what is now known as the NATO phonetic alphabet. The words you see here were not chosen randomly. The criteria that they used were that each word had to be phonetically distinct from each of the other words, and also that each word had to be recognizable and pronounceable by native speakers from each member nation. For example, look at the letter N, November. In French, Novembre. In Spanish, Noviembre. Not exactly identical pronunciations, but understandable by each native speaker. So now our hypothetical soldier could say Bravo, Charlie, Charlie, Delta, Golf, Echo, and the chance of something being misheard on the other end is much lower. So is zwei versus zwei the German equivalent of this? Well, yes and no. Yes, it's true that German military and police will use zwei in place of zwei when communicating over radio so that zwei is clearly distinct from drei. For similar reasons, some Germans will also say Juli instead of Juli for the month of July, and will say Juno instead of Juni for the month of June, just to make those 2 months phonetically distinct from each other as well. But it turns out that zwei for the number 2 is much older than NATO, and in fact predates radio communication altogether. Fun little history lesson, it turns out that many Indo-European languages used to have, and in fact some still do have, multiple ways of saying two based on grammatical gender. In fact, there are some lingering remnants of this in modern English. We have the numbers 2 and 20, words like twin or twilight or between two things. And in older English you could say that something was torn in twain, meaning torn in two. So we see that the origins of zwei are much older and murkier than a simple phonetic alphabet. But why was this ever the case? The answer may be lost to history. Slowly over time, German and English dropped the special treatment of the number 2 and just adopted a single way of saying it. There are some dialects of modern German, such as Austrian, that still say it the old way, but Standard German has long since moved on, other than for military and police radio communications. Now the really boring alternative explanation for R2D2 is that zwei matches the mouth movements of the English-speaking actors when they're saying the word two, so it's a little less jarring from a lip-syncing perspective. But that's a really boring explanation. Ich bin K2SO. Ich bin ein unprogrammierter imperialer Droide. Well, at least they're consistent about it. K2SO in German is referred to as K2, which is consistent with R2D2. Still, it's a bit jarring when you find an unexpected translation for something as simple as the number 2. That's all for today. We will see you next time on Learn German from TV.